you say Mrs. Dupchek brought it to us?
Uh-huh. What do you think it wants?
What is it trying to tell us?
What's that?
Don't worry, we've killed it.
Hello everyone, my name is Borax, and I hope you enjoyed that little meme intro from a great show called Third Rock from the Sun. And can you believe that kid is actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Anyways, I've been on a quest to play every single champion in the support role. Today we'll be looking at Zac, the secret weapon, and we'll rate how good he is as a support.
I was made for this. Literally.
You know what, most of my teams don't seem to invade, so maybe I should leave this segment out. But if you choose to invade, you can start your E, and it can be quite potent if the enemy is grouped up together. And for that reason, I will give him a nice simple S- for invading. I would make his rating higher, but you will want to start Q in most cases, as starting E leaves you a bit vulnerable in lane. I like to judge the overall laning phase based on 3 categories: poking, peeling, and all-inning. I think I need to play a poke support soon because this is another champion that can barely do anything to poke. Your best bet is to use your Q to attach it to either the enemy ADC or support, and then auto the other champion, which will slam them together and do a bit of damage. Don't forget though that you can first Q a minion and then an enemy and will have the same effect, but you won't get the initial Q slow off. Also, similarly to something I mentioned in my Gragas support video, is the possibility to heal after using an ability. When you use abilities against the wave, you will drop blobs, and then you can pick up your blobs, which will give you a bit of health back. But a fair warning is that when you use your abilities, it actually costs a little bit of health, so unless you can get the blob safely back, it's not worth it. Peeling is something that you can kinda do but aren't great at. I think this random Katarina Leona lane that I somehow was up against is a perfect example of how you can try to peel and the shortcomings that you might have. You see, I was able to knock both of them up with my E, and I could flash to proc my Q slam on both opponents later on, but both of these CC abilities are so short in duration that they still killed my Kaisa. At least I was able to get out of there with my E later on. All-inning is pretty fun as Zac. Your best bet is to charge up your E from within a bush and try to jump on both the ADC and the enemy support, and quickly follow it up with casting Q on one of them and auto-attacking the other to slam them together. With Ignite and your ADC's damage, you will do a decent amount of bursts in that short period of time. Another way you can all-in with Zac is by first using your Q to slam someone closer towards you and then quickly casting your E. While this is a shorter range combo and more difficult to do, it does make landing your E knockup a lot easier and is a nice thing to take advantage of if you can. Another great thing about Zac is your potential to dive people. If you can coordinate with your team, you can be the one to tank all of the turret shots if you have your passive, and then one of your allies can use TP on one of the blobs that died at the end of the fight, which will continue to tank the turret shots, but will be invulnerable just like a minion would be when you TP on it. This is something that is handy if you are in a 5-man and will be highly improbable to execute with a bunch of randoms. For laning, I will give Zac Support a B+. From everything that I've said, you might think that it should be higher, but for some reason I just felt so squishy all the time, and your cooldowns are super duper long in the early levels. Primarily your E cooldown, which starts off at a whopping 24 seconds. So even though his abilities are great, if you do mess them up, it can be quite a big struggle and your enemies can really take advantage of you. Roaming as Zac Support will be your bread and butter trick to getting ahead and shifting the tides of battle in your team's favor. There's so many angles that you can use that enemies won't have warded, and will suddenly have a big green glob showing up in their lane and smacking them up. As Zac, you don't want to go into the side bushes of mid lane, but rather stand behind the walls, as they are much less likely to be warded, and you will still be able to hit the enemy laner. A big important detail that I just remembered is that I highly recommend that you don't have your E on quick cast, as you will have to hold it down awkwardly when trying to see the range. Just use E on normal cast and you will see that it is a lot better. Another great place that you can gank from, roam, is either yours or the enemy's Raptor's camp. The enemy might think they are safe under their turret, but it's a lot of fun to give them a rude awakening. For roaming, I will give Zac Support a S+. I love Zac so much for his high potency ganks, and while his laning can be awkward, his roams are the exact opposite and they are just a pure delight. Before we take a look at Zac's overall ability to support in the early game, let's take a look at some of the matchups that he might have to face. First up, we have my least favorite champion, Morgana, the League of Legends equivalent of microwave pizza rolls versus oven-made pizza rolls. Jokes aside, Morgana is one of the hardest champions for Zac to face. Her spell shield stops all of your CC so easily, especially because it is so telegraphed. and if she ever binds you, you might as well alt-tab and look up a recipe for something that you might want to make for dinner, because by the time you've made the dish and alt-tab back, you will still be rooted. Other matchups that I considered to be quite difficult were Set, Vel'Koz, Janna, Thresh, and Alistar. These are all champions with really good peel for telegraphed abilities, especially Set, which was a big surprise to me because every time I would try to E in, he would just counter E and completely cancel my CC, and then he would just beat me up. A champion that I think could be quite frustrating to play against is the tubby froggy Tahm Kench, who can just pop the enemy ADC into his mouth when he sees your E indicator and make you feel very sad. Next up, we have a bunch of champions that are quite difficult, including the rest of the hookers, who can kill Zac easily as well, as Rel, who I also think can pack a punch. Then we have a lot of pokey, annoying supports like Yuumi, Bard, Zyra, and Nami that can do well against your telegraphed abilities. Yuumi belongs here especially because you can't queue together the ADC and the support, as she will be AFK on the enemy ADC. To continue, we have a bunch of champions that I think Zac can do decently well against, because they're squishier champions that can die to Zac's E, but they aren't super easy as they each have a decent way of using their own kits when Zac is in their face. Now we have some champions that I believe will learn what a true power bottom looks like when they face up against Zac Support. Most of these champions are the enchanters with very limited CC, and I also think that Zac can do decent against Leona, as you can slam her and the enemy ADC together to serve as a good peel tool, and I believe you can outroam her, but let's be real, at the same time when Leona's really strong in meta, very few champions can actually do well into her, sadly. Finally, we have a bunch of champions that I'm putting in the who plays these guys even. Set was able to escape this tier this episode, so good for him, and we'll see if anyone else can do it next episode. Now then, to rate Zac's overall ability to support in the early game, I will give him an A rating. His laning isn't abysmal, and his roaming is legendary. I truly think that Zac is a playable support in the early game, but let's transition to the late game where I think he is even better.
Well, now I'm just mad.
When it comes to late game, I like to consider the champion's abilities to engage, peel, and their overall impactfulness on a team fight when they're being utilized as a support. Engaging as Zac is amazing. I think that he has one of the longest range engage abilities in the whole game outside of something like Ornn ult. What I'm talking about is obviously max rank E, and it is your ticket to getting picks and starting off fights for your team. You will actually be able to get onto the enemy carries without having to do a big flank maneuver that other supports have to do. For engaging, Zac deserves a S+ rank for me. Of all the champions to be able to get a fight started from your team, Zac truly shines. Let's talk about something that's not my favorite thing to do, but I will admit is important, and it is peeling, or aka keeping your damage carries alive. And you know what? Zac isn't bad at doing this at all. The main reason for this is his ultimate ability, which is crazy strong at being a disruptive tool. With one simple button press, you will be bouncing around your carries and knocking up anyone that gets close to them. Combine this with your Locket shield that you will be providing, as well as the ability to dish out other CC, such as your Q slam together and your E knockup, Zac really does add up to being a good peel character, and I will give him a S rating. The reason why it's so high is because his ultimate can peel off all 5 enemy champions if they get close so easily, and I think that is something that can be heavily underrated on Zac. Let's talk about Zac in team fights. After you engage on the enemy backline and defeat them in one hit, you will want to move back towards your carries and peel for them while your E is on cooldown to make sure they don't die in one hit. After ensuring your carry's safety, you can then look for more E's in the rest of the fight to keep it going. Zac is a great team fighter as he has a great go-in move known as his E that can lead up to a good go-back move, which is his ultimate ability. For teamfighting, I will give Zac Support another S. The only reason why I don't put it higher in the S+ tier is because your initial E can get interrupted, and then you can get killed pretty quickly if you didn't proc your Aftershock, so that is something to watch out for. Before we give Zac Support an overall rating, let's take a look at some of the runes and items that I enjoyed running. For runes, Aftershock is great. It gives you the tankiness you need to survive early scraps, and you have 3 ways to proc it, in the Q slam, your E knockup, and finally through your ultimate ability. Besides Aftershock, I like to take Fawn of Life to enable your teammates to heal off of your CC, Bone Plating to give you more tankiness in lane, and I'm a big fan of Revitalize on Zac because I'm like 99% sure it makes your healing from blobs more effective. Then, for the secondary tree, I like Biscuit Delivery so you have more sustain in lane, as well as Cosmic Insight because having more cooldown reduction on supports is wonderful. Alright, it's time to get into the items, and I will be the first one to say it. Maybe I should have tried out AP Zac Support, even though I definitely think it would be way worse. But if you wanted to go that route, maybe you could go something goofy with Everfrost to root people after you knock them up. This is the build path that I went, however. I started the game with Relic Shield and Rush CDR boots almost every game. Also in my Shaco support video, I raved about how strong these boots were, and I knew Riot Games was going to nerf it, but they only nerfed it by increasing the cost by 50 gold, which I mean, seriously, that's hardly a nerf. And they are still the cheapest boots in the game, and they are great for giving you all of that CDR that you want as a support. Then I went into building and completing my locket to provide more healing for my team. If the enemy has a ton of healing, I think an early Bramble Vest is a great investment to cut some of that healing down. Other items are fairly situational now. If you want to try and keep your ADC more alive, Knight's Vow is great. If you're looking for more engaged, something like Deadman's is a good option. Pretty much, the most important item is Locket, and the rest of your build can be fairly situational, depending on what your team will need. And let's be honest, you won't have a ton of gold anyways to pick up that many more items. Especially if you're being a good support and picking up those pink wards from the shop, which I'm admittedly not always doing. Now that we've talked about Zac's runes and items, let's give Zac an overall rating for his ability to support. Based on everything that we have said, I will give Zac Support a S- rating overall. If his laning phase felt better, or if his cooldowns were a little lower, I truly think he could be a S+ rating support. But those are aspects of his game that do make him feel a little weaker than some of the constantly meta supports. I do, however, strongly recommend that you give Zac Support a go if you enjoy roaming or being the primary engage for your team, as those are the two aspects where Zac truly shines. Well then guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave it a like for Daddy YouTube algorithm, and feel free to comment what support you might want to see me play next time, as I did play Zac to finally honor the request of this comment. Next week, we'll be taking a look at Veigar's support, so subscribe if you are interested in watching that one, and if you decide to try out Zac's support, I will wish you good luck and have fun.